Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Music Industry in 5 Minutes or Less video series. I'm Renee Meredith, the COO of Exploration Group, and today we'll be answering the question, what is copyright reversion? Copyright reversion is one of the most complex things about copyright law, and one of the most frustrating for songwriters and artists. We're not going to be able to get into the whole nuance of the issue in just one video, but we're hoping to give you enough information that you understand basically what it is and when you may need it. Always find a good attorney to help you navigate. And just to be clear, we're only going to be talking about U.S. law in relation to this subject. Laws regarding copyright reversion in your own territory will need to be reviewed. Now, Section 203 of the Copyright Law focuses on the rights of the songwriter, musical artist, or their respective heirs to terminate any grants of copyright assignments and licenses made on or after January 1, 1978. Here's a few examples of when this might apply. For songwriters, let's say you wrote a song in 1980 and you assigned your publishing to a music publisher, making that publisher the owner of your publishing piece of the song. By the way, you always own your songwriter's share, unless you specifically sell it to someone else. Now, this assignment is different than having a publishing administrator. An administrator only has the rights to represent your publishing interest. They don't own it. So in 1980, you assign or sell your publishing to a publisher, where they own it. If you meet certain criteria, and you do a few steps as outlined in Section 203 of the Copyright Law, then you can get your publishing ownership back. For a musical artist, let's say you signed a record deal in 1985, and in that deal, the record label owns your master recordings. Then per the law, you or your heirs can also get back ownership of your sound recordings from the record label. So what are the rules? Notice may be served no earlier than 25 years after the rights were granted, or if the grant of rights covered the right of publication, no earlier than 30 years after execution, or 25 years after publication, whichever comes first. Now, the termination is not effective until 35 years after the date of execution, or if the grant covers the right of publication no earlier than 40 years after execution of the grant, or 35 years after the publication, whichever comes first. The law also says there's a 5-year window where you can revert. So the latest you can terminate is at 40 years after the grant of the rights. Okay, so that's pretty complicated. So just to simplify, and this is a major simplification, let's look at the grant of all exclusive rights for a composer-author without the right of publication. The first thing you would need to do is pick your date of termination. The termination window is between 35 and 40 years after the date you assign the ownership to the publisher or the record label. So the date of termination should be in that window. After you know your termination date, you must send notice to the music publisher. This is a 13-year window, no less than 2 years, and no more than 10 years before the date of termination. So your notice can be sent between 25 and 38 years after assigning the ownership, as long as your notice of termination is sent, giving the current owner 2 years notice. So basically, if you want to terminate sometime in year 36, you would need to send your notice of termination somewhere before 2 years of that notice. So the latest you could send your termination notice to terminate in year 36 is in year 34. Look, this is just the beginning of this topic. We'll do more videos and we'll dig into other issues surrounding it. As always, always, always consult with an attorney to make sure you're in the best position during the reversion process. There's a link in the description below to some basics on Section 203, and we hope that you find it helpful. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to click subscribe for future videos in our 5 Minutes or Less video series.